Okay, let me get one thing straight. This is my first video essay. I'm gonna mess up somewhere. The editing is gonna be atrocious, and though I wrote out a script beforehand, after researching this topic, I may have gotten a thing wrong here or there. If I did, please correct me if I'm wrong and point me in the right direction. Thank you for your understanding and please bear with me, but I hope you learned something from this boring video of mine. This video was inspired by a Verge article I read back last summer when the BTS World Game was fairly new. It came out last year to general fanfare and anticipation for many armies, the name of BTS's fandom, after a couple of years or so of raiding. For those unfamiliar with the game, the basic plotline follows the protagonist as she unwittingly travels back in time from 2019 to 2012, before BTS has even met or even been recruited to Big Hit, the entertainment agencies the boys are contracted under. The protagonist is forced into the role of a Big Hit manager and takes it upon herself to find and recruit the boys to the agency before finally prepping them up for debut, with plenty of troubles and struggles along the way, though there are plenty of heartfelt and fluffy moments to fangirl over sprinkled here and there as well. So, the basic plotline is fairly straightforward, right? For fans of BTS, it's a very tantalizing, exciting opportunity to manage your faves and bond with them in a way that most can only dream of. And even if you aren't a fan of BTS, it's kind of an interesting topic to explore managing an idol group, though it's more of a story-based game than a typical management game, but I digress. However, some of the reviews and issues surrounding the game dampens the experience and provides a bit of food for thought. For instance, the Verge article I mentioned before introduces us to an important theme found throughout the game: parasocial relationships. The definition of parasocial relationships is offered by the author of the article as follows. The term refers to a feeling of closeness, usually between the fan and a celebrity. The fan observes the celebrity through entertainment, social media, and so on, and feels as if they know them, despite seeing only a distorted fragment which is never the same as knowing someone personally. The celebrity, of course, usually has no idea they even exist. Particularly, BTS seems to have mastered the art of creating and cultivating their parasocial relationships with their fans by passionately and regularly interacting with them through social media such as Twitter, their blog, YouTube, and especially through VLive, an app controlled by Naver that allows K-pop idols to broadcast live, allowing them to interact with fans who delightfully chat away with each other or leave their idols' crushes or comments in the chat box. Of course, BTS isn't the only K-pop group to do this, but they managed to grow a large fan base who, despite their massive size, feel as close to the boys and other fans as if they were one big happy family. So, that sounds all well and good, right? I'm just sitting here nervously chatting away about to tell you how great and flawless the BTS World Game is, right? Of course not. I was inspired to write this up based on the Verge article and my own experiences with the game. The problem that the Verge article author brings up is based on the parasocial relationship between ARMY, BTS's fan base, and BTS themselves. The BTS World Game allows this parasocial relationship to reach levels that seem to blur the lines of the kind of relationship expected between the idol and his or her fans. You play as their manager, and you expect to act like it until you find yourself affectionately ruffling the hair of Jungkook or being playfully teased by Yoongi about some private pictures of yours on a flash drive you've got back at the office. A flash drive that he refuses to get back for some reason. Interactions like this are in between receiving phone or video calls and texts from the boys that are awfully suspicious of crossing the border into flirtation. Then we have another game mode called Another Story, which features the members in an alternate universe where they aren't BTS at all but are leading individual lives. Here the relationships are a bit more blurred. For example, BTS's leader RM is now an aspiring novelist in the middle of solving some sort of crime mystery, while the oldest member, Jin, is doing his best to rise as a hotelier. It is this game mode, where the boys are just normal Joes like you and I, that seem to create the most problems with not just the author, but a few reviewers of the game in the App Store. The protagonist is essentially stalking the members and acting pushy and intimate in order to get closer to the members. Honestly, I could see many fans acting this way if given the chance, because who wouldn't want to catch a glimpse or two of their faves before they got famous, or I guess in this case as normal citizens, and be able to befriend them as well, all the better. But for me, I found it uncomfortable playing through Another Story and through some parts of the main story too, as I felt this girl was overstepping her boundaries a bit too often. While I do like the members, I wouldn't go out of my way to stalk them or forcibly insert myself into their lives, but that's just me. Probably because I consider myself the ugliest thing under the sun, but again, I digress. Yet, I feel as if many do not see the problems this game has because they love the company and the members behind the game, which I can understand. I couldn't help but be curious over how the members were in another story though. The first one I picked was Jungkook's, as I had heard the most complaints for that one, as I had seen many reviewers object to the stalking of a minor. The year is still 2012 in another story, making Jungkook only like 14 or 15 at the time. We can assume the manager, aka the protagonist, is older than that, although the game does not even bother to properly explain how another story works, so if it makes you feel better, perhaps you could believe the quote-unquote manager in this version of the game is close to the age of the member whose story you're playing. I don't know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Anyways, in Jungkook's another story, it starts out with the girl arriving at his high school in Busan, his hometown, and spying on him as he dispassionately goes from club to club in order to find one that fits his overly qualified skills. He isn't nicknamed the Golden Machine for no reason, but the game pushes the agenda that he's perfect at seemingly everything. One thing he appears to have a real interest in is Taekwondo of all things. Well, as you guessed it, the girl you're playing does her best to step in and help him, but in the middle of stalking him to a Taekwondo competition, she winds up being ganged up on some guys who are then fought off in K-drama style by Jungkook. I was really cringing by this point, but then the girl insists and pressures Jungkook to accept her offer to treat him to dinner, only for that to be interrupted, which leads her to again pressure him into taking her out. All the while, the poor dude clearly appears somewhat hesitant and unsure over her advances. Personally, I just didn't feel right about it all, and noticed how pushy she was in making this 14-15-year-old boy go out with her. It's all the more weirder when she's technically his manager in the main story, which you can then assume she must be an adult, at least perhaps in her 20s if we're generous. Yet I feel that this was her character in pretty much every other member's another story. She pretty much inserted herself into their lives, and while it can be seen as sweet, considering she is trying to help some of the members pursue passions that they're unconfident about, like Yoongi with his social anxiety playing the piano for the people, or J-Hope with his veterinary training, it still comes across as a touch off with some of her antics such as stalking, pressuring, lying, etc., all in order to get closer to her chosen member. The only another story I've liked consistently is Taeyoung's, as that one in my opinion holds the least cringe, and honestly would be great if it wasn't for the girl's presence. Actually, the another story section would be even better if it would have followed the members in the third person, or we could play as them. But that's just my opinion. Granted, so far what I've covered isn't all the problems held within this game, as I looked into reviews from armies themselves on the Apple App Store and found a few reviews that some of the problem fans had with this game. This included the personalities of the members not matching up to the perceived personalities fans have of them, only having she as a gender pronoun, which alienates their male fan base. It feels as if it's aimed more to a younger fan base, approximately 10 to 14 age range, when BTS have a lot of their fans in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s, probably 60 and above too, let's be real, than you think. Having set responses that sound cringy or flirtatious, triggering issues and exploitation of the members' struggles. Example, a major one was Jimin not eating properly and working himself hard to just get some abs to make their debut even more of a success apparently. At the time, Jimin actually did struggle with his diet and was embarrassed about lifting his shirt and showing his bare abs and tummy, but you know, all for the fans, am I right? The app constantly asks you to download data almost every time you open it, which may have been resolved by now. And when I look back at the App Store reviews recently, there's actually now a lot of new complaints that focus on how it crashes a lot these days. Another problem was the clear gacha system in the game from money-hungry Netmarble, who are the developers of the game, and Big Hit. Another one was the fact that the game is rated ages 4 and up, despite carrying mature and triggering themes. And lastly, it's boring. Still, it is up to you to take what you will of the game. Personally, I do believe the parasocial relationships cultivated through this game can affect how one sees BTS, but I do think it's down to the individual to do what they make of it. The game currently has over 130,000 ratings, with the average star rating coming out to be an exceptional 4.9. meaning that despite the problems and issues mentioned above, the majority of BTS fan base that plays the game and bothers to leave a rating or review either don't care or don't think it's a big deal. For instance, I saw some fans brush off the apparent flirtatious interactions as just being friendly or a misinterpretation. One older fan claims that it's the choices you pick that could influence you getting flirtatious or creepy answers from the members. This same fan also says that the members would never consent to the things shown and portrayed in the game if they disagreed or didn't like it. Well, as a rebuttal to that, if the K-pop was a fair industry that treated its artists as actual human beings instead of slaves and products of the system, then yeah, the fan would probably be right. Yet, it's very known that contracts in the K-pop industry usually are pretty unfair and restrictive. And BTS with Big Hit is no different, despite what the boys in the company may tell you. I would not be surprised if Big Hit has like a rule in the contract that at the very least stating that the boys couldn't openly complain about the game, or a rule that said they must go along with any and all activities Big Hit requests of them. It's not just a K-pop thing either. Many industries have what is called a non-disparagement clause, which can be defined as a non-disparagement clause simply states that you won't say anything negative about the company or its products, services, or leaders in any form of communication. Non-disparagement clauses try to prevent employees from doing anything from telling a friend that the boss is a jerk, to posting a scathing takedown of the business as a whole on Twitter to give interviews to journalists that shine a negative light on the company. To be clear, disparagement is different from defamation, which one says bad things about somebody or something without any truth to it, unlike disparagement, which does include the truth, even if it is unfavorable. Taking this into account, I don't think it would be a stretch to say that the members of BTS are under some form of this clause, as Big Hit, like any company, vehemently wants to protect their image and assets. If that means muzzling some of their employees, including BTS, that's what they would do to keep raking in the money. But I think a lot of fans of BTS forget that Big Hit is a company and not a friend of ARMY's, nor surprisingly does the company feel obligated to work in the best interests of fans, or even BTS themselves.
많이 배우고 성장을 해왔거든요. 제 자신 스스로가.
In the end, it's about the amount of profit and attention they receive, and with BTS clock ticking down to their military departure, Big Hit wants to flood fans with new BTS content to keep fans busy and attached to BTS, even when the 7 are on hiatus or during their 2-year conscription. As for the members having a voice in what content goes in the game, we have to ask how much influence does BTS really have in decision making? How much autonomy or independent decision making does BTS have without the influence of the company is most likely pretty minuscule, especially with how much they've blown up. Do you think it'd be the exact opposite? Which I naively thought as well before. But I think given how many eyes are on BTS these days, Big Hit probably feels more pressure than ever to make sure the boys carry quote-unquote squeaky clean images that don't fracture the carefully cultivated images the boys have built upon for nearly a decade at this point. This is definitely a very controversial take. I know a lot of ARMYs believe the boys are in total control considering how big they are, and how could anyone, even Big Hit themselves, not recognize that talent, that genius, that direction, etc. that the boys possess. But the reality is usually always less sweeter than you think. For example, a hot topic issue regarding BTS was their Saudi Arabia concert last October. ARMY seems to have been divided on whether BTS should attend or not, considering many perceive Saudi Arabia and the Korean governments are using BTS as pawns to further their own agendas of looking good in the public eye, despite Saudi Arabia being a tightly controlled country that oppresses women, sexual minorities, and is at war with Yemen. BTS being UNICEF ambassadors certainly doesn't help matters, but did BTS speak up about all that? Well, actually, yes. In an equally controversial Hollywood Reporter article about a week before their concert, RM, the leader of BTS, was quoted as saying, "I wouldn't say it was easy, but we were officially invited. It's been a while since we've performed in the Middle East. I guess the last time was 2015 in Dubai." With Jimin chiming in, "To put it simply, if there's a place where people want to see us, we will go there. That's really how we feel." But Jesus, this article. I remember when it first came out, the people on my timeline on Twitter were in a mini uproar about it, while some defended BTS to the death and condemned the article and the writer who wrote it, who I will say is not a good person, really. And I did show the article to one of my friends at the time who does major in journalism, and she said that the article read more like a blog piece than an actual journalistic article. So there's that to keep in mind. But on the other hand, there were some fans who were left not quite knowing how to feel. From what I saw on my end, I think BTS may have lost a few fans from this article, honestly, or at least left many disillusioned in their image, especially with another statement from RM being the very embodiment of this disillusionment. He says, as quote, "BTS doesn't talk about big issues like war or peace or global poverty or starvation or things like that," he says, shooting down the question. "There are a lot of issues both in the United States and in Korea. I think the message is loving yourself as well as to look at the small things." In this quote, RM was responding to being asked about performing in America during a time of delicate political upheaval. Funnily enough, just recently their brother group TXT was really asked on American television about the Trump rally in Tulsa, and the boys were so flustered.
Was having a big rally, and he thought 1 million people were going to show up, but a lot of K-pop fans have said they actually got the tickets and, faked out the president. Do you know anything about that whole movement about TikTok users and K-pop fans getting those tickets for President Trump's rally and then not showing up?
So I admit that it's totally the fault of the broadcasting station, not the boys, who are honestly just products of the system that creates such a situation to happen in the first place. But back to the man at hand, we can't be 100% how much autonomy is given to BTS, but we can guess based on close observation at being a more informed consumer that's probably not that much. Because at this point, BTS is a brand that their company must tightly control and package up prettily to continue to appeal to fans, the consumers, who in turn continue to support the boys no matter what happens. Whether that be something, a scandalous Hollywood Reporter article, or a dating scandal, or controversial book recommendations, or perhaps a cult leader appearance on a certain song on a mixtape, because it has to count on the already well-established parasocial relationships BTS has with their fans who feel really emotionally connected to the boys to a degree that's both admirable and scary. Personally, I don't find anything necessarily wrong with a fan-idol parasocial relationship to a certain degree. To a certain degree, let me repeat. It's okay to admire and be inspired by your face and do positive acts such as donating, participating in activism, such as the recent BLM movement, or maybe the situation in Yemen, and etc. on behalf of your idols or because of your idols. But I think it's best to recognize the limits to such a relationship. The Wattpad-influenced style fan fiction some may dream about, or even the familiar bonds fans may feel not only through the game, but in any type of BTS content that they consume, is at the end of the day here to keep you attached to the members and further the agenda of the company for better or worse. I'm sure the boys do genuinely enjoy interacting with fans, unless you're one of those sasaengs that overstep their boundaries. But I think it is still wise to reality check yourself before you get too deep into your emotions for 7 guys that don't even know you exist, and even if they did, what would come of it? I've seen too many people hurt by overzealous fans of BTS who genuinely believe they're doing the right thing, but end up doing irreparable damage to innocent people's lives and health. The sad part, for me personally, is that while they can move on to the next target and forget, the people they hurt cannot do that so easily.
For the very first time since debut, I am so ashamed to call myself a supporter of BTS. And I'm shaking because in all of my years, I never thought that I would have to put this light stick away, possibly forever. I am not accepting Min Yoongi's apology. I don't believe it that he didn't know. I have friends that go to Berkeley and Juilliard that make music for a living, and you can't just tell me that D2, one of his most anticipated albums, like he was sitting on that track for months, you didn't care to ask your editor or your sound mixer, like, whose voice is that on the layering, because it's definitely not mine. And the mob-like mentality of this fandom, like, you're out here with Black Lives Matter and you're user, but then you're doxing black women for not accepting this apology.
But typically, as long as those 7 guys that you look up to are okay, then who cares how others feel? Ultimately, with the BTS World game, I really do think the game is just different fanfic scenarios meshed into one, especially in another story. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that it's just a game. A game that is meant to make you feel closer to your faves and really make them feel like an extended family. It could be a nice relationship, a fuzzy warm one, at that, but I just say that it pays to be a careful and critical consumer before you overlook problems and blindly consume and love any and everything just because your faves are plastered all over it. It improves yourself not just as a fan, but as a person as well. Thank you for watching or listening to this video of mine. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. I could definitely have gone in depth with some of the topics I rose in this video, like the activism, which seems to be a very hot topic on Twitter right now. But I wanted to really focus this video on BTS World because this is originally actually inspired by an article I wrote last year in September on my blog. And I thought as my first commentary video, I think it would be better to shorten the scope instead of trying to cover all topics at once. But if anyone's watching this and wants to comment down below any ideas that you want me to go over, that I would really appreciate that. Or any advice or critiques, because as my first commentary video, I want to continue doing this because this is actually kind of fun. I'm sorry for all the stuttering, but I really hope that you receive this fondly, and I sincerely do appreciate that you watched all the way to the end. I hope to be back with more essay-style videos like this in the future, so if you enjoyed this, please, I really hope that you do come back for more, or not, which is understandable. I mean, listen to me. But either way, please take care of yourselves during these very, very confusing, very upsetting, and annoying times. And I hope you have a good day or night, whenever it may be, and goodbye. Thank you again.